Hello and welcome to Tiffany's Tiny Things. If you have been wondering why I haven't uploaded in a while, it's just basically because I have been really busy. There's a lot of things going on in my life. One of those things is I am getting married in a couple of months. It's taken a lot of time from me, as you can imagine. Please let me know if you would like to see my wedding dress after the wedding. In my opinion, it really looks like a Barbie dress. So that's fun. Leave a comment to this video if you want to see the dress. Yeah, that's the reason why I haven't uploaded in a while, and hopefully I will be back to my normal routine after. So back to what we are doing today. I am customizing a Monster High doll. As you saw in my thumbnail, it's going to be Vi from Arcane League of Legends. I did Jinx a while back and you really liked her. So I decided that, of course, we need to make Vi as well. So if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you're not already subscribed, please subscribe and push the bell button also so you don't miss my next videos. This is actually pretty important. So yeah, I think we should get started. For this custom, we are going to make a hybrid doll just like with Jinx. I will take the body from an Ever After High doll and I decided to use this abominable head for Vi. So we'll start with taking off all of the factory hair with a scissor. And then I have to scrape out the inside of the head because it's a lot of hair and glue inside there and we don't want that. So I just use these pliers to get that gooiness out. And then I'll wipe off her factory paint with some pure acetone. And now, looking at her face, I decided that it would not be a good fit after all for Vi, so I decided to use Cleo Denial's head instead. And now that it's cleaned up, I will do this shrinking method in pure acetone. Yeah, I basically just put the head in a glass jar of acetone and let that sit for a couple of hours. This is the so-called fast method. It's a bit risky because the head can be warped a little bit, but I took the risk. As you see, the head first swells up a lot and is really squishy and big, so we need to let this dry for at least a few days, I would say. And now you see the head is dried up and has shrunken down very much in size, so a lot smaller than the original head. And I'll start with painting the scalp red. And when the acrylic paint is dry, I am going to start rerooting with these pre-made yarn wefts that I did before. I really recommend to do the rerooting before the head is completely hardened if you do this shrinking method, because when the head is fully hard, it's like almost impossible to push the needle in. When I'm finished with the rerooting, I just put in a lot of glue inside of the head and swish it around with a Q-tip and let that dry. The undercut I will be flocking later. So now it's time for Vi's outfit, and I'm using a couple of reference pictures to look at for this because her outfit is quite complicated and in different parts, so I'll just start from the bottom layer and out. So I'll start with her hoodie that will be underneath everything. I just have these two pattern pieces that I made and sew them together, and here we have the finished little hoodie. And as you see, the hood part is quite big because, you know, it's a Monster High head, so it needs to be big. I just added a little Velcro on the front because we won't see that later anyway, so I think this will be the best solution and it fits perfectly. And then I made her quite a simple little top, but I added some details on top of it. So here you see my little pattern pieces. yeah, I just added some blue parts here on the front, and I sewed on the sewing machine these stripes, and I just added these ribbons to look like these gray parts on her top. Just Velcro in the back, and here we have the finished little top on her. Now it's time for the pants. The pants were, well, quite tricky to figure out how to make because they are also in different parts and they have big pockets and it's like this wraparound thingy on it. So I think I figured out a good way to make them. So I will start with making like the bottom piece with just brown, and then I will layer that with the striped part. But just to be sure, I'm going to make a trial pant with some fabric that I have a lot of. So yeah, I just do it exactly as I planned, and then we'll see how it fits. So I'll just cut these pieces out and sew them together as planned. They turned out almost like I intended. There was a little mishap here, but I think I'll know how to figure that out. So I'll just sew the real pants now. And here we have the finished pants. And as you see, I have this brown fabric underneath, and layered on top I have this striped fabric that I printed myself. And yeah, I'm pretty happy with how they look. And I even got this wrap around look on her. So now I just have to add all of the little details to her, like her belt. I will use this ribbon for that. Just test that out. A lot of things with Arcane that I realized that, well, a lot of their clothes don't make really sense on how they put them on and take them off. So I have to kind of figure that out for a doll, because I like my dolls to have removable clothes. So that does make it a little more difficult. So for her belt, there are like tinier belts inside the belt, I guess, which I will use like a thinner ribbon that will go through these loops. And just figuring out how to make these loops was a challenge, but I figured it out. I put some toothpicks to keep the loops open and glued the ribbon on. And I will do the same thing 2 times more. And here you have the belt finished. And as you see, I added these brown ribbons, these 2 ribbons around, and a little Velcro in the back. So you see, I had to be a little bit creative on how to attach this, and also a couple of buckles in the front. And here you see how it works. And I'm actually very happy with how this turned out. I think it looks super good on her. And now for like these pockets and things, details on her pants that doesn't make sense, but they look good. So yeah, here I just added some green fabric and now a black ribbon around. And yeah, I glue most of this because it's so tiny. So if I would sew everything, it would be super, super bulky. So most of it I just glue. Now to make her little golden details on her outfit that I don't know what's the purpose of them, but you know, they're there, and I make them out of this like little bit tougher plastic, like from a doll box, you know. And I just cut out the pieces and then I paint them silver and gold. And then I made this one more little random pocket that she has on the side of her pants and just glued that on. And this pocket isn't functional, unfortunately, but you know, aesthetics. So here we have the knee pad thingy out of silver and gold. It's now dry, so I just glue on this ribbon. I test out with her boot just where to place it so I don't put it too high up or too low. Yeah, then I just glue it in place because we don't want it to slip around. So here we have the pieces that I made so far, and I think they look really good. So now it's time for her leather jacket. And I don't actually have red leather, unfortunately, but I do have this red kind of shiny, I don't know if it's latex or what it is, but it's almost like leather, so it will do just fine. I just make all the pattern pieces here, the back, the front, and the sleeves, and I just sew them together like this and add little ribbons and details with other fabric so it looks like, you know, her real jacket. And for her buckles on the jacket, I don't have an exact replica, but I think these little hoops will do just fine anyway, so they emulate the style. And then I made her little patches on the shoulder or sleeves on the sides here. I tried to paint them as close to the original as possible. And yeah, I'm really happy with the results. So now it's time for the face up. And as usual, I cover up the hair and body with fabric or plastic, you know, whatever you have on hand. And I spray the face with 2 layers of Mr. Super Clear. As you might have guessed, Cleo de Nile's skin tone doesn't really match the body because the body is lighter and Vi is kind of pale. So I need to color correct the face a little. So I just use these pan pastels to try to match the body, and I do this in several layers with Mr. Super Clear in between the layers. I am happy with the color matching, and then I can start sketching out her features. And for this I use watercolor pencils. I use Faber Castell and Derwent. I start with a very light gray just to map out all of her features, where to place them on her face. And then I start immediately with the acrylic paint, and I use Vallejo paint for airbrushes because I think it's a really nice light consistency. And you know, for other face ups I usually use a lot more of the watercolor pencils, but for this style, the Arcane style, I think the acrylic paint, it really looks like that style immediately. I don't know how to explain it, but I like this kind of painted look. So yeah, I just go back and forth with these browns and gray tones around her eyes, and I really look at reference pictures a lot to make it look like her. And obviously Cleo de Nile doesn't have Vi's exact face, especially the nose isn't like hers, but I try to kind of contour it to look more like Vi, and I think at least from the front it really captures her features. So, and yeah, as you see, I just go back and forth here with different colors. I don't really have a plan for this. I try to do both sides at the same time because I really can't do it just one side and then do the other, if you know what I mean. So that's my tip. Do both sides as simultaneously as you can. And when I'm kind of happy with the eyes and eyebrows, I do her lips. And I do them quite similarly how I made Jinx lips, at least the color. But of course, Vi has a little bit more scars on her face. So she has a scar on her lip and on her eyebrow. And now I am doing her tattoo on the cheek here. And I basically just freehanded that, so yeah. And like Jinx, she is going to have some freckles. And I really wanted them to look like siblings, like sisters. So I think that is important that she also has the freckles. And also she has piercings in her ear and on her nose. And I tried to paint them on at first, but I didn't like how that looked. So I chose to use these silver hoops instead that I just pressed in the plastic. I just put a little bit of glue for safety. And I think that looks pretty good. And now it's time for her neck and back tattoo that you will never see again after this. Of course, I prepped the body first by buffing it with a nail buffer, and then I sprayed the body with Mr. Super Clear so I have some grip with my watercolor pencil. And yeah, this was very time-consuming and tricky, but I think I captured it like in its whole and its essence, you know what I mean? And I'm pretty proud of this tattoo actually, but yeah, as you will see later, you won't even see it. I will cover up the arms and she will have her clothes, so yeah, but I know, and now you know that it's there. So, time to cover up those tattoos on the arms by adding her bandages. I do glue these ribbons on because I really don't want them to slip around and, come off her. So it's important that they stick on. I painted her hands instead of putting a ribbon on because we need to be able to take the hands off and on easy, and you will see why later. And I just tried to blend them together as much as possible. And now that her face and body is done, I will do the flocking on her undercut. And I just covered the area with some white school glue, and I just try to drop this actually nail flocking, so it's extra small flocking, and I just drop it on the glue and let that dry. And then I thought it looked a little bit thin, so I did it all over, and now I use this sift so it drops on, nothing clumps, if you know what I mean. So now I'm happy with the result, and we just let that dry. And now to style her hair, because it's way too long as it is. So I just cut it in sections at a time just to not take too much, and then I style it with some hair gel until I'm happy with the result. Now it's time for the last pieces, and for her boots and gauntlets I 3D printed them in my printer. I will just start with painting a base coat of black on all of them, just regular acrylics. And when the paint is dry, I add some pieces of Worbla to the boots so they actually look like Vice boots, because these are just some random boots I found online, so we have to modify them. And yeah, if you're not familiar with Worbla, it's kind of a thermoplastic that you heat up with a hairdryer or a heat gun, and then you can shape it the way you want. And then it kind of sticks to other plastics and itself, so it just stays on there by itself. And now I paint the boots the colors it needs to be. They are kind of blue. And then I finish all of the details on the boots. Paint all of the brown details and the gold and silver. And then I finish with some gray. And then I just finish the boots by dry brushing all over so it looks a bit more worn and aged. When that's done, I'll paint some ribbon in a brown color so it looks a bit leathery. And this I will glue on the left boot, but here the camera died, so you won't see that. But it's there. And now I will paint the gauntlets, and I'll start with kind of the same blue as for the boots. And when that's dry, I go in with the silver and gold details. And then for the glowy bits, I just paint with a very light blue, and then I put almost white in the middle of that so it really looks like it's glowing. And then I finish off everything by dry brushing it so it looks, well, worn and aged a bit. And then they are finished. And now we have all the pieces ready for Vi. Here you see the gauntlets, the boots, all the different clothing pieces, and Vi herself with the tattoo. Take a good look at that because you won't see that anymore. Yeah, now we're just gonna get her dressed and ready for the beauty shots. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked this video, please give it a like, subscribe and push the bell button so you don't miss my next videos. And also a big thank you to my Patreons. If you want to be a Patreon of mine, you can just check out the link in the box below this video. See you next time!